You've mentioned you were working with your mom. How was that, and how is that experience?
It was okay. I mean, it was good. I mean, I was her henchman, you know. She needed me to go do bookkeeping, I was there. She needed me to go buy something, I would go and buy. She needed me to pay the workers, I would pay them. She needed me I was like a henchman. If she needed me to drive somewhere, I would go. So it was a good experience. I think it's a good thing when parents have businesses or enterprises or something and allow their children to get involved in the processes. It helps with the family knowing how the industry is going, and also just get the experience, because from that experience I still used to get paid. I got paid a few shillings. Of course that money helped me date my girlfriend. But it helps nonetheless. You know, it also helps you as a child when you're earning a bit of money at that age, to be a lot more independent, which has led me to being independent in a lot of my life.
And also it builds that relationship with your mom at that point where you're able to spend even more time with her, not just as
that's
your mom.
true.
Does that help with that?
That is true. That is true. Yeah.
I know in the story you lost your mom somewhere. Do you want to share about that?
Yes, I do. I do.
When did that happen?
So my mom had been a very healthy person until the year 2009, when she was diagnosed with breast cancer in April. And that process was pretty challenging because, for one, I was a newlywed. I had just gotten married the year before in June. And around now that whole time, when she got diagnosed, got her surgery, we now got expectant with my wife. So here I am, expecting a new father. I'm a newly married man, and my mother, who was close to, has gotten unwell. I had also just moved out of home, so all those things happening at the same time, it was pretty challenging. So she fought the fight for about 9 months and passed on. Ironically, in January of 2010, which was the same month my firstborn got born. My mom died on January 28th, 2010, and my daughter was born on February 1st, a few days later. Same hospital. Yeah, so, and I remember at that time my father refused to come to see the baby because it was the same hospital, just a different
ward or room.
wing. Yeah. So initially my mother had gotten treatment at Nairobi Hospital, but through her whole chemotherapy, radiation, she went to Kenyatta Hospital. But then in January, when things recurred, I think she just lost the fight. She just gave up. And so when she got sick now to the point of going to hospital, she said, I'm not going back to Nairobi Hospital. She said she's going to Nairobi Women's Hospital. By that time, my wife and I had already made bookings and plans from the year before at Nairobi Women's Hospital. So actually, going for one funeral meeting after she had died, going to my dad's place. It was Sunday. We had lunch with my wife, gone to church, gone to then I was going to see my dad for a funeral meeting. There were several people at the house. That day we went to the house. We barely spent 15 minutes. My wife got into labor. So we had to rush now to Nairobi Women's Hospital. So you can imagine all those things happening around the same time.
It must have been a lot for the whole family.
Yeah, I guess it was a very confusing time. Yeah.
How did you take the news when you heard she had cancer?
I think to be honest, when things happen to me, around me, or people around me, I'm like, okay, it has happened, let's deal. Let's wallow in it. I move on and like attack the situation, like now we're dealing with the process. Because I remember even going to sit with my mother during a chemotherapy session. I had left the office one day. I said I'm taking time off and I'd gone to sit with her at the office. My dad had traveled, so it was me and another lady who was sitting in with her. And so, I mean, we just sat there. For me to know that I was there during that time was helpful. The time that it really hurt me was on December 25th, Christmas Day of that year. My wife and I had made other arrangements. We have always had, we've always been torn between going to one home, another home, a different place for Christmas. So that year we had made plans. We had gone somewhere, then we'd go home later and interact with the parents. So that day we had gone somewhere. It was around Ridgeways. And in the course of the day, and this is in Christmas, we get a call saying, oh, mom is unwell, she's going to hospital. We're like, what? So we rush ourselves to Nairobi Hospital and find that she's been admitted there. Now for me, that was a low moment. I remember when I was going in the lift, I was just in my heart, I was like, Lord, then don't let her go now. Don't let her go now. Don't let her go now. Don't take her now. And I remember feeling so heavy laden at that time. And I think God had that whisper for at least a month. Because from that time, he kept her around for one extra month. So the duration of when she was sick, and when she finally... So when she got into Nairobi Women's Hospital, my wife would be at home because she was heavily expectant due any moment. I would go to the hospital and I'd have cooked food and I'd take food to her so that she could eat. So that day, I remember one of the days I carried food, my father was... I happened to go to the hospital that day. I found my father in the car park, and I found many people in the ward upstairs, very many familiar people. There was silence, they were just talking, whispering. I asked to see my mom. I looked at her. She was just lying there. She was breathing very heavily. And I think then my father had come. Then he had said, she's not going to eat that food. And that's all he told me. Just take it back home. And people were just still whispering. So eventually, when I finished with her, just looking at her, just trying to chat, I realized she's not talking. I did go home, but I do realize that was the last time I ever saw her, because alive, rather, because we got the call later on in the evening that she has gone, and so that was the experience. I don't think it had even occurred to me at that point that she was going. I think for me, I don't know if it's a flaw or I don't know what it is in my head. My head is just triggered to focus on what is and what can you do. So for me, in my head, what is being there for somebody. So even the days prior to her being unwell, I had gone with my wife to see her at her home, and she just looked off. And I think she said, I'd like to go shopping. I'm like, hey, we can take you. So I carried her in the car, and we went shopping. We went to Junction, and but she was not herself. And that's, I think, we both looked at each other, my wife and I, we knew she's not staying long with us. We, the two of us, usually have this premonition of people not staying long. And so we can. And so me, I personally, I felt I've given my time, I've given my all to my mom. So, like, if she's gone, she's gone. Now let me focus on my wife and my baby. If she's gone, so
at least you know she's going to be with the Lord. So
that's what counts for me. As long as somebody is with the Lord, that's what counts.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the experience of my mom's death.
And how did your family, like, how did it affect your family?
It hit hard. It hit very hard because my father, of course, it hit him that now he doesn't have a wife, and he was alone in the house. He was living with my sister. My sister, it hit very, very hard. Very hard. And it's only in the last few years she's come out of it. But it has taken her a long time to heal. A lot of questions of why, how could it have happened? You know, the question, especially the big question of why, I hit her very hard. For my father, well, he healed out of it after a few years. After about maybe 3, I think he had dealt with his issues, because after 3 years is when he got remarried. But in between those 3 years, he had said, I'm not giving myself more than 7 years to live. So I think for the family it hit hard. For some of us, I think we're now just coping like, you just missed your granddaughter. And she was really looking forward to meeting her granddaughter. And vice versa, we were looking forward to her meeting the grandmother. So it was quite, you know, challenging. And, you know, to just live life now as you know, my wife had started getting close to my mom, her mother-in-law. So now to not have her mother-in-law around, me now not having a mother, you know, it has it's you feel you miss that relationship.
That connection you had.
Yeah.
Do you think then maybe now if we can move from that story? Thank you for sharing.
No problem.
Because I know that it impacted the whole, even me personally, when I heard that story. It was because she was very close to many people in Nairobi Baptist.
That's true.
And she was very warm around so many of us.
Yeah.
So we felt that loss as a church as well.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
Thank you. No, it's 14 years. It's, you know, you still, but the memory is still there.
Yeah.